Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depends on when you wake up. Um, Xin chào các anh chị. Um, it's great to be here always. This is second year I'm joining this event, and I want to start with thanking the organizer for inviting me and BCG for this important keynote speech. My name is IL-Dong. I'm managing director and partner from BCG Việt Nam. So I've been working in consulting almost 22 years across 20 different countries. So I started my career in Singapore, went back to Korea, US, Korea, Hong Kong, and I've been working in many different countries in ASEAN market and also in the Western Europe. And I've decided to live in Vietnam, where I see huge potential and opportunities. So today, I'll talk about how, we know data is important, but how we see those global corporates and companies are turning the data into the real money. This is ongoing journey, of course, and there are not many companies who have really achieved this. And we are seeing every day, every month, there are new trends and new trials and new achievement throughout the corporates. So 3 key topics. First, what is the role of data in the new economy? And second, we will talk about some examples. I have 2 examples to share how data actually transform the business and generate the revenue and additional profit. And last few minutes to talk about regulations and some of the implications to us. So I think we all know what data means, right? This is where the innovation comes from, right? And also, now there's a lot of protection and security for the data as well. And this is where we see global competitions, also the natural protection on data center, and also how we leverage data as a key competitive power, right? Not among the country level, but also at the corporate level as well. And it certainly creates a lot of insight from the data. We get insights, and we use that insights to make decisions and allocate your resource and capital and investment to the higher profitable area, and also optimize operations, your inventory, and so on. And we catch a lot of innovations. We see a lot of startups, fintechs, leverage data to create innovation, to accelerate their growth, also differentiate themselves as well. And also, we see in the organization, me as a consultant, I join a lot of BOD, BOM meetings, and more senior executives, more and more directors use data to make decisions. So this is becoming one of the most critical factors for decision making. And also, we see some of these data again more leverage across the education, healthcare, to really help the society and those people who are really needed. And what we are seeing, this is a very interesting part. The data, we know data is being created every day a lot. And we actually try to capture the volume of data created every year. And every year, on average, for last 15 years, 35% growth. So every year, 35% more data is created, right, in the world. And this data is analyzed by some corporates to generate more momentum on business. So what we see in terms of number is $11 trillion in global GDP contribution, right, from these international data flows. And we believe in 2030, 30% of the global GDP will be driven by data-powered digital economy. Right? So data-driven business or the data-driven business models or the initiative or the revenue model. And also what we have seen over the last few years is there's more and more cross-border data flows. And what we also seeing, we all know data is important, but not many corporates have been conquering this data. Right? So in our analysis, only 7% of the companies are capturing values from the data flow, right? And reaching the future-ready maturities. And we see more in, of course, the TMT, like the telco companies, for example. The telco has a lot of like BNPT, Viettel, Mobifone have a lot of data to digest. So they are some of the leaders in some of the industries, but only 7% are really at the mature level. And also, as I mentioned, the data monetization market size is growing quite exponentially. And this is the BCG analysis on the data business, like how data is being monetized. And we have tried to estimate the size of data monetization business. Has been growing quite fast, especially over the last few years, where we see a lot of computing power improvement and AI capability. And on average, 26% growth on the market size of the data monetization business. And there's a couple of things I want to mention before I go into some of the other interesting numbers and examples. The first, the data is not only for the revenue, right? It's not only for the revenue or the profit opportunities. We see data being used for a lot of process optimizations and supply chain management and how you optimize your network. So network means, for example, for the banks, it's branches, where you set up your branches, like size of branches, number of people in the branch is all now driven by the data. For petrol business, the gas station, right? Where you set up the gas stations, the size of gas stations, the revenue model. And you now see a lot of supermarkets, small mini markets in the petrol station. That's all driven by the data. And some of the leading companies, for example, like Samsung, has been using data for many different aspects. And what they're famous, for example, is the inventory management. Right? They have the world-class ERM based on data. And Samsung, there's a big factory in Bang Ninh, right? In Vietnam. They have pretty much 0% inventory. So I talked to one of the supplier there, right? So their supplier, the Samsung mobile phone, they have a case, right? The case sometimes is like largely paper case. The supplier of that case, small company, they supply 10 times a day those cases, based on, once again, Samsung does not want to have all these cases in their inventory. So based on the demand, they deliver 10 times a day to the Samsung for the case. And this is all data-driven, all analytics-driven, and that creates a lot of efficiencies as well. And what we see, this gap between stagnating companies and mature AI data mature companies getting bigger, right? And in our analysis, the mature company create 1.7 times bigger revenue, 4.2 times bigger shareholder return, and 12 percentage point better return on capital compared to stagnating companies. And this is where now the data and AI is driving the real value. And there are a lot of details here, which I'm not going to go through. But it's not like, I'm not talking about just 1% of the company. I'm talking about 34% of the mature company driving a much bigger impact compared to the stagnating company across the different dimensions. And two examples I want to share today. One is one of the leading bank in the States, in the America. They started just journey 3-4 years ago. Right? That's where all the corporate, especially big corporate, they start with setting up the. Now you see here a lot of names like data division, AI division, or DNA, data and analytics division, and where you hire the people, create a platform, build the governance around it, and then they become the very strong and pivotal part of the organizations. And they start with the same journey, and I'm not going to go through all the details, but they have been pushing not only the model, but a lot of the underlying model, where they see cost savings across the 30 to 50% of for their process and their expenses. And what's really important for us to understand is 10, 20, 70%. Right? 10% is where you actually all these fancy jobs of data scientists, data analysts creating the value, but the real challenge come from under the surface, the 20%, the 70% of the work. What we really believe is, first, the 20% of upwards success come from the data analytical platform. This is where data is available. This is where the models are being created and tested, right? And the technical platform around it. But what's really difficult is the bottom, what we call 70%, right? Even if you may have a lot of data available, if the organization does not have the right talent, right leadership, right process, the collaboration model, it doesn't work. And this is where the real challenge comes from. And this is also what I see in Vietnam as well, that sometimes, many times actually, the human is the bottleneck, right? The leadership is the bottleneck, not the data. You don't blame data, you don't blame IT, you blame the leadership, because leadership is not ready for those decisions. And also, the collaboration model, the incentive model is not really working towards the leveraging full data and AI. Another example I want to share is not actually far from here, is Philippines, pretty much your neighbor country. This is #1 digital app in the country, and they are the only direct in the country. And they started this journey, what we call as hyper-personalization, around 3-4 years ago. Right? Once again, the journey is similar. They set up the analytics factory and the talent, and they have a lot of models we train adopting more AI technology. And what we see now is full-stack hyper-personalization engine. Right? So this company, once again, sends, this big retail company, they send 225 million personalized messages every day to their customers. So it's not like a very standard marketing, there's a, like where you send to everyone. They send very personalized message and text, right, to increase those chance of the conversion, and also the chance of the sales. And with this hyper-personalization model, what we see compared to legacy CRM model, this company was able to achieve 10 times bigger lift. Where now we see 25% of the revenue coming from this hyper-personalization model after 24 months of the go live. And in order to do that, and the way they run is very interesting. They have daily routine, right? They run the algorithm model every day with 105 billion data points. And they, once again, offer 225 million notice, the text, and offer to their customers. And was a different type, different pop-up, different push message, sometimes email. And they retrain the model every 3 hours based on the outcome of the those push message or the campaign. Right? And where they really differentiate now is, traditionally, they have been more on the segment-driven approach, but they are now more really customer-driven, where not many models. I mean, traditionally, there are so many different models, 17 different machine learning models, but now this company has one reinforced learning-based ML machine learning model existing, once again, which goes through daily routine of retraining to make a real-time offer and improvement. Yeah. I think my time is running out. So just quick message. The regulation is helping. They are blockers, but sometimes they are helping. And they create the protection as well across the world. Korea, China, EU, and Japan. Government really want to use this as a national advantage and also the protections of their corporates. In Vietnam, we also see a lot of resolutions, ministry-level decree to help, right? The sandbox, approach. We see that, Central Bank of Vietnam, State Bank of Vietnam, and different type of the organization, ministry driving this approach. Once again, to really, especially on the private sectors, to drive the growth of the country. So this is a very helpful message for us as well. And the last page I want to share as a summary. We all know data is important, but I want to share and highlight very critical numbers. 4 times, 3 times bigger value driven by the data, and the gap is getting bigger and bigger every year. When I see you next year, number will be different. And all those efforts are extremely important, not just the model, all the underlying governance, collaboration process. The 20%, 70% of the effort is critical factor for those corporates to really gain the value. And we always say it's never late, right? And then nobody will make an immediate success. This is where we make investment, we learn, and then we change ourselves, we improve, and we revise the approach, take another attempt, we learn again. This is the never-ending journey for those corporates, for those tech companies, and we do believe this will be the direction, the only direction for corporates to really differentiate themselves. Thank you very much, and have a great day.